Let's say, Russ, that I'm 20 years old, and I've had some depressed episodes, and there were a few times that I had increased energy, and there's some other things. It's pretty clear I'm bipolar. And I'm 20 years old, and I say to you, okay, Dr. Fetterman, how do I know when I'm just feeling good and when I'm really off baseline and getting a little manic? How do I tell the difference?
That's a great question, and I'm going to say I don't have a simple answer for you, but it's a process of learning to understand and accurately perceive your patterns. Look, let's talk about bipolar more broadly. We got a depressed piece, we got a mid-range piece, and we have elevated mood piece, right? Most people know when they're down. Being down feels uncomfortable. You feel sad. You feel lethargic, lack of energy. That's usually pretty clear. Mid-range, we know what mid-range is. It's kind of how we feel day to day, right? But what about that good mood piece? The dilemma for the adolescent or young adult is that good mood feels good. What we're saying as professionals is good mood isn't always good. Well, how do they know when it's good or when it's not good? I think early on in their progression with the disorder, it's very difficult. It isn't like the first or second time someone can go, oh, all right, I'm feeling good, but it must mean that I'm having an elevated mood experience. It must mean that it's part of my disorder. I think this is something that adolescents and young adults come to gradually. And that is over the course of going through several bouts of elevated mood. And I understand we want to minimize the extent to which this experience recurs. But over time, they begin to learn what are the warning signs or what are the indications that I may be experiencing elevated mood that is a little bit different than just feeling good. One of the things I recommend folks do is create their own list, right? Warning signs that I might be hypomanic list. And that list is going to be very individualized for each person. It could be, when I'm hypomanic, I clean. When I'm hypomanic, I'm up till 3 in the morning. I wake up the next morning, I'm not tired. When I'm hypomanic, I get involved in projects that I'll remain intensely involved in for 12 hours. When I'm hypomanic, I feel optimistic in a way that I don't usually feel, right? Such that after recurrent experiences of having those experiences or having those different mental states, the adolescent or young adult learns to say, oh, here I am. All right, this is reminiscent of the last time. This is indeed what I've written. This is what my psychiatrist or my psychotherapist has spoken to me about. Maybe this is it. Maybe this is something I need to be concerned about. And that learning gradually accrues and that it gradually occurs over time. It's not something that the individual can do like that, right? But it really is a challenge. How do I distinguish good mood from the broader picture where good mood might not be good? I think the other thing we do is we rely on people we trust in our immediate world. So whether it's roommates, good friends, boyfriend, girlfriend, parents, whatever, who is it that you regularly have contact with in your daily environment? And if indeed they're people you trust, you ask them to give you some feedback as to when they perceive that you begin to shift or change in ways that are indicative of your movement upward into an elevated mood stage. Such that, let's say you're real close with your roommate, and one day your roommate says to you, for the last 2 or 3 days you've been different. You've been waking up earlier, you've just been more energetic and optimistic than you usually are, and given what you told me a couple of months ago, I'm a little bit concerned. And that should be a time where, if indeed he or she is someone you trust, you don't just say, oh, the hell with it, I want to continue on with what I'm feeling, but you step back and you take it in, and you begin to recognize, maybe I am changing, and maybe this is something I need to try to reel in, and maybe this is a time to call my therapist or to call my psychiatrist, and to be cautious to get the sleep that I need. In other words, you learn to identify the warning signs. You do it on your own, simply through your own growth and development and your own developing self-awareness. And you utilize those in your world who you trust to give you honest, solid feedback. And I think that over time, at least as I work with students over the course of 2, 3, 4 years, I see tremendous difference in their self-awareness after being in treatment and living with the disorder, let's say 2 or 3 years into it, than I did the first or second time they've come into my office.
Well, would you have them give that list to people? If they've got a list of warning signs that I'm...
If indeed they're people they really trust, yeah, sure, because that'll be helpful to those individuals too. I think that's a good idea.
So share your list with those you trust.
Share your list with those you trust, okay. Right, and those who have frequent contact with you. Now, understandably, you don't just say to a casual buddy, hey, you know, I'm bipolar. Mm-hmm. You really want to know that person's going to treat it with respect and with confidence, and they're going to be there as an ally to help you, not as someone who's just going to say strange things about you because you've got a disorder. So we need to be selective about who we share and who we don't share with.